Until further notice, meetings of the Skokie Village Board will be held electronically, with the majority of village officials participating via remote access in order to comply with the state of Illinois gubernatorial disaster proclamation. Members of the public who wish to comment as to an item on the published agenda or to comment during public comments must submit their statement or question in writing to the village manager's office, and all properly submitted statements or questions will be presented and read during the relevant portion of the meeting. Written comments may be submitted by email to citizencomment@skokie.org or by mail to the Village of Skokie, Village Manager's Office, 5127 Oakton, Skokie, Illinois 60077, or via the Village's drop box located just outside by the public entryway to Village Hall. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Village Clerk Pramod Shah, who will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The meeting will come to order, and the clerk will please call the roll.
Trustee Roberts.
Here.
Trustee Sutker.
Here.
Trustee Ulrich.
Here.
Trustee Bromberg.
Here.
Trustee Klein.
Here.
Trustee Gray Keeler.
Here.
Mayor Mendoza.
Here we have a quorum. First item on the agenda is approval of the consent agenda for this evening's meeting. A motion is in order. Trustee Klein, seconded by Trustee Sutker. Is there anything on the consent agenda anybody would like to have removed? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Trustee Roberts.
Aye.
Trustee Sutker.
Aye.
Trustee Ulrich.
Aye.
Trustee Bromberg.
Aye.
Trustee Klein.
Aye.
Trustee Gray Keeler.
Aye.
Mayor Mendoza.
Aye, the motion passes. The next item on the agenda is a presentation by the Skokie Economic Recovery Commission. This evening we have with us the chairman, Shalom Klein, along with Matt Brandmeier and Len Becker. Shalom.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, trustees. Good evening. As mentioned, I've been privileged to chair the Skokie Economic Recovery Task Force. As you can see in the graphics that are hopefully being displayed, in late April, the mayor appointed 11 business and community representatives, really representative of the healthcare, commerce, and even clergy representatives from throughout Skokie to gather input and recommendations to assist with the recovery from the pandemic. Clearly, the pandemic continues, and many both businesses and residents in Skokie continue to be affected in a major way. We began meeting in May, and our last meeting was last week on Wednesday, and tonight we are presenting our recommendations, which you've received in your packet, with some highlights that will be delivered by staff. I do want to mention, first of all, a couple of people and a couple of things that stood out to us. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge my partnership with the vice chair of the task force, Howard Meyer, the executive director of the Skokie Chamber of Commerce, as well as, again, the full task force, 11 fantastic representatives that gathered information, reached out to their contacts, and helped staff in conducting surveys so it would be as comprehensive as possible. Tonight, I know Madeline from Needs and Wants Bakery is joining the meeting. So thank you, Madeline, for your hard work, and thank you to all of the members of the task force for the commitment, which indeed we've been meeting weekly. So it's been a lot of homework that we've put on everybody, and I appreciate that. As mentioned, we've conducted a lot of outreach to the business community to gather these recommendations, and our partnership with staff, who you'll hear from in just a moment, have been fantastic. And I know that they have worked days and nights to make this really a shining example among many other municipalities. Everybody's going through this together, but I believe Skokie has a good chance at recovering and ensuring that our businesses can continue to remain as vibrant as possible. So the process will continue. We will continue to, as you can see, evaluate and monitor the milestones of the pandemic, and we'll meet as needed moving forward. And you'll be hearing some further recommendations as we move along. So I will turn this over to the Director of Community Development, Matt Brandmeier, to guide you through some of the other highlights.
Great, thank you. If we could go to the next slide, there's you see a chart there that is kind of part of our survey. Overall, I just wanted to kind of highlight a few features of the survey, and how we interacted with our businesses over the past few months. Overall, the survey asked about, how the businesses were doing, what their status was, and essentially asking them how we could help. We also we conducted phone interviews, and we were regularly in touch with business owners, throughout the community. So overall, I want to say that we probably reached out to between 250. We made contact with about 250 to 300 business owners, over the past 3 months. And you can see on this slide that, we touched upon a wide array of different types of businesses. We wanted to be sure that we were inclusive, as we move forward. On the next slide, you'll see that, businesses were affected, quite a bit. That there's a measure for no impact there, which is 27.66%, which is, I thought, a good number, but overall 2/3 of businesses, were affected in some way, either laying off their staff or, operating under some kind of modified plan. Two main themes that were kind of presented themselves as we move forward with the survey and through our conversations. One, that most businesses, almost all the businesses had, and I think this is on the next slide, most businesses had, concerns about the safety of their employees and then also their customers, as far as how they would reopen. And so we endeavored, in partnering with the health department and, a few other, departments within the village to get the word out on how to reopen and kind of what was safe and, how to conduct their business. There was also a major concern about, getting their customers back after they reopened, and essentially that translated into kind of a marketing effort for us. Both of these items played a central role in our recommendations, and I think Len Becker's going to take it from here as far as our recommendations go.
Great, thanks, Matt. So the task force and through the business outreach came up with 11 recommendations. I'm not going to read through all of these. You can see them all in the presentation in the materials. However, I think it's important to highlight a couple of the key takeaways. Some of these might be combined, but at the outset of COVID-19, we've been extraordinarily proactive in helping market businesses in the village that are open. It started back in March. We were providing essential services and letting folks know what grocery stores were open, that the big box stores were open, and things like that. And that segued into a more robust marketing effort, which is well underway, which will continue to promote businesses throughout the village, but also take a more proactive lead and making sure that employees that work in the village, obviously our residents and then visitors to Skokie, we try to do everything we can to make sure that those businesses and services are visited. Disproportionately, we want people, since we have more employees than residents in town, that we take advantage of those. So these are a lot of initiatives that we had thought about, but have really moved to the top of the surface with COVID. Monitoring, as Matt mentioned, is going to be critically important. We have, like everybody else, really try to make sense of a lot of these programs as they were being unveiled, sometimes not with a lot of detail, nobody's fault, but we're all dealing with the same kind of frantic, assistance and blocking and tackling, so to speak. So updating the website, making sure that businesses know that the village and through our partners at the chamber and other community organizations understand that we're on top of it. With the task force, we're on top of it. We're hearing individually, we're hearing through village staff, we're hearing through elected officials, and we've got a pretty good read on the community. And that brings me to the third, and I can't stress this enough, this plan is not done. It never will be done until COVID is eradicated. Part of the thoughtfulness that went into the summary recommendations are really a result of being nimble with the understanding that no one knows what tomorrow's going to bring. Hopefully we'll continue in the right direction, but cases have gone up. We don't know what the winter's going to bring. So we need to be nimble. We're going to need to be able to pivot and readjust very quickly. And again, proactiveness on behalf of the village. This is a great plan. I want to thank everybody who's been involved, Chairman Klein and the task force, Madeline. But we will be publicizing this, and it will be a living, breathing document moving forward. Hopefully, we'll have a cure soon. And with that, Chairman Klein, I will turn it back to you.
Okay, thank you, Len, and thank you, Matt. With that, all three of us are available for any questions.
Trustee Sutker.
I was just curious on the section where it said other and it was 11.7 in terms of what happened to employees. What would that include?
Do we know Leslie, do you know the answer to that question?
Trustee Sutker, I'm sorry, can you repeat the question? I know you said it was the other question, but what?
Yeah, it said other 11.7 of what would happen to employees, and I don't know what that would include, because it said, stagger, layoff, part-time. What did the other include?
I can provide you with a couple of examples, because we did give them an opportunity to explain themselves in the other category. I know that I have a couple of recollections, and most were hybrids of the above. Some of them they had to stagger, others they had to let go. That was the majority of the others. They couldn't say just one thing. They could only say that they had to do a number of techniques or tools in order to retain their employees, or to at least have some semblance of what it was going to be like when they came back.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Trustee Klein.
Yeah, hi. Thank you, gentlemen and ladies, for your hard work on this. I'm sure it's not easy. But Matt, I want to ask you a question. You had stated that you would talk to 200 businesses, and the prevailing question was that you said they were asking for help. Besides financial help, what kind of assistance were most businesses looking for?
Yeah, and you're right on the nose there. Financial assistance was certainly, on their minds. But we try to kind of tailor our communications to, how we could assist. And as I mentioned, a lot of it was about reopening guidance, about, understanding the rules that the state was issuing, because things were very fluid there. The survey itself was issued during the stay-at-home order prior to the actual reopening, going through the phase 3 and phase 4. So they were all kind of looking forward to, how they could open safely and to what degree they could open. So as those things came to light, we, like I said, we partnered with the health department and other departments to get that word out through the police department and others. And we also, fielded complaints, from residents and shoppers, and, responded to those. The other thing which I was hoping to highlight, as far as assistance goes, was, some kind of marketing effort, that these businesses are very concerned about their customers coming back. And in addition to, highlighting that, it's safe to go out, it's safe to, grab a meal or, get your hair cut or that sort of thing, that, we're reaching out to our residents and saying, shop local, shop Skokie, and, return to your businesses. Those were the two primary things that I think shook out.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Trustee Roberts, I think, had his hand up, and then Trustee Ulrich. Trustee Roberts?
I'm sorry, I was
Okay.
muted there.
There we go.
Thank you to all the members of the task force for your good work on this. This is really important information to me, and I'm sure to everyone. I was really kind of looking at this bar graph. It's in the first section under Roman numeral 4, survey and interviews. It's entitled Current Status of Your Business. It's a bar graph, and it has, I'm colorblind, so I have a little bit of trouble translating, but if I'm understanding this right, the one section says that about 11.97% of businesses are planning to or permanently close, which is unfortunate, but what that means is obviously is about 88% of the businesses are in some other phase. So I wondered if the staff could comment on, in all your interviews, face-to-face and otherwise, what's the general health of our businesses? And obviously they're struggling, but I thought that was relatively good news. Were you surprised at the statistics?
Well, it was early on, as far as the survey goes, and I don't think, I don't think any of this has fully come to fruition. That number just being over 10% will certainly increase. I can tell you that we've been doing sweeps and kind of identifying all of our data points that will tell us and inform us, who has closed and, permanently. So we are monitoring that, but I don't think, that point altogether, I don't think is accurate at this juncture. We'll likely see more in the next few months, and I think everything points to that. So, Len, do you have any, or Leslie?
Yeah, I just, Trustee Roberts, I think, the big concern, and we've heard it from the task force members and the businesses since the survey was closed, so to speak, if there's a second shutdown, and there's more disruption, that will, we've heard, and it's not just local, but nationally, it's going to be extraordinarily problematic. That's why this stimulus package is so important, and just keeping these businesses afloat. But having the disruption, opening and then closing again is just not a good situation.
Yeah.
I would echo both of those comments. I also feel that the online survey being anonymous tended to lend itself more to, and again, it was the period of time in which we surveyed them. It was before they reopened. So the hope was, I think, on the part of many of them, that once they reopened, things would, creep back to some semblance of normalcy. We have talked about doing a sort of a follow-up survey in the next couple of months, just to ask the kind of questions that are on everybody's minds. Are you getting through this? Do you think you're going to be able to make it over the coming year? And so those are the kinds of questions that I think will be very telling. But, as the spirit of entrepreneurship, and a lot of these are business owners, they didn't want to give up yet, even though they were wringing their hands and saying how much this has affected them and how much they've lost. And, it was a lot of uncertainty, still is. But I think the tendency was they don't want to give up yet. So.
To jump on that point, one of the things that has really amazed me is kind of the response by the business community and how they adapted and how they changed. And I think they, had listened to, a few of the business owners on the task force, and just all the steps they had to take in order to reopen safely, I think really lends to their commitment, to stay open. So, I'm really impressed by all of that.
Trustee Ulrich, I think, had a question.
Yes. Hi, I really enjoyed the outside seating that we had. It's been extended and expanded. My question involves the summary recommendations, particularly number 7, which says about reviewing and reshaping local regulations. Are we involved in also in restructuring the way businesses operate going forward, using technology, things that we don't normally do, for instance, drive-through, businesses that don't usually involve that? And if so, do you anticipate some new things that we haven't seen yet?
So it's something that we're monitoring, and we have been getting feedback already, particularly from the restaurants. And I think we're going to we're going to find ways that we can accommodate them. From the office market, I don't think that's completely has shaken out yet. Exactly what office buildings and office operations will be affected in the future. I've heard people advocate for their employees staying at home, but at the same time I hear in some instances it's not going so well. So we haven't heard that much about other places other than restaurants and retail primarily. I can tell you that we're looking at a series of text amendments. There would be changes to our zoning ordinance that would specifically allow for curbside pickup and different types of drive-through. Just trying to accommodate. We're updating our code to allow for walk-up windows. I know there's been a response in our downtown to have walk-up windows, which we've actually permitted already for needs and wants. So I would look forward to those kinds of changes moving through the Plan Commission and onto the village board in the near future.
Is there a way that business owners can contact you with suggestions on what they would like to do, some new technological?
Yes, absolutely, and I would look forward to that.
Well, one of the things that I was pleased with was all 3 of our presenters this evening emphasized that this should be taken as basically an interim report. If anything, I think the path ahead is at best ambiguous. We're obviously dependent on what happens in Illinois, keeping the so-called positivity rate down as low as we can, and doing all of the things that are being recommended by our health department, the CDC, the Illinois Department of Health. When you look at what is going on in other parts of the country, I think that our 3 presenters particularly hit an important nail on the head. By all means, we want to avert a second shutdown. And this evening, we will hear from Dr. Kennard. But in relation to the report, I think it's important for our businesses and our residents to note that this is not the end of the journey. Our commission will continue its work at the call of the chairman, and we all want to thank you and all the members of the task force and those who contributed by being such great businesses for everything that you've done. Thank you very much for all of your work, and we look forward to hearing from you in the future. The next item on the agenda, in fact, happens to be a report of our village manager, John Lockerbie.
Thank you, Mayor Van Duzen, and good evening, everyone. Tonight, I've invited Dr. Kennard to provide an update regarding COVID-19, including the most recent information that we have. Dr. Kennard.
Thank you, Nick. Good evening, Mayor Van Duzen and village trustees. Thank you for inviting me here tonight to give you a quick overview of the COVID-19 situation in Skokie, which continues to look good. Although there are a few residents being diagnosed with COVID-19 each day, there has not been a surge in cases as we continue to gradually reopen businesses and safely engage in other activities in the village. The rolling 7-day average new case rate for Skokie has been 1/10 that of Cook County as a whole for the past few weeks. Last week, which was our most recent data, we were at 7 new cases per 100,000 versus 70 per 100,000 for suburban Cook County. Overall, other metrics for the village remain well within the desired parameters, such as a low test positivity rate and sufficient hospital and ICU bed availability in our area. So things are under control, but it has been emphasized this evening, we're not out of the pandemic yet, as we all know. There are 4 Skokie residents in the hospital currently because of COVID-19, and unfortunately there was another death over the weekend. Our deepest condolences to the loved one of this individual who was a beloved member of our community. But as bad as it has been, we collectively together have prevented a great deal of illness and suffering simply by community members maintaining social distancing, wearing face coverings, staying home when sick, and getting tested if you have symptoms of the disease. Those steps may not seem like much, but they make a huge difference to containing this virus. Equally important to our control efforts is the daily work of the Health and Human Services Contact Tracing Team, which is up and running. Details of the federal COVID-19 grant that is funding this program were provided in the packet for this evening. We're working with businesses, schools, other organizations, and residents to notify people who've been exposed to COVID-19 so they can take steps to protect themselves, their coworkers, and their families. This is done in a manner that protects the identity of the person who was the source of the exposure. I want to mention that it has been truly beneficial for Health and Human Services to have been able to hire individuals who speak the same languages as many of our residents. The cooperation with this aspect of our response has been crucial to preventing additional cases of COVID-19 from occurring in the village. Before I close, I wanted to circle back to Trustee Roberts' question from the July 20th board meeting about any trends that we're now seeing. The data analytics team took an in-depth look at the 138 cases that occurred over the past 30 days. This is a small number, and when we divide it to look at different aspects, we can quickly get to numbers too small to make any conclusions. However, one trend that we have seen is that more cases tend to be young adult workers. For the first 3 months of the pandemic, March, April, and May, 1/3 of cases were less than 40, whereas in June and July, half of the cases were in this age group. In part, this reflects all the work that's been done in Skokie and throughout Illinois to control the spread of COVID-19 in long-term care facilities, where our most vulnerable residents live. I'm relieved to report that there were just 3 cases in Skokie long-term care facilities in the past month. The truth is, though, that in many instances, about half of all cases, ill residents do not have any idea how they became infected, which is one of our challenges with this virus. But there are a couple of other points to mention. Across the board, as you heard tonight, workplaces are doing a really good job of protecting their employees, which early on in the pandemic we were all scrambling to figure out. An example of that is healthcare workers, who now make up 18% of all working cases versus 40% a few months ago. And I mentioned last meeting that travel-related transmission of COVID-19 is low in the village. There are only a handful of cases, making up about 2% of the total in the last 30 days. There is one potential area for intervention, however, which would be to take steps to prevent household transmission, which accounts for 31% of cases over the last 30 days. This is especially important for large, multi-generational households where over time as many as 8 or 9 people can become ill. These households make up about 10% of our cases, so perhaps 15 cases per month, and there's funding in the contact tracing grant available to provide, on a case-by-case basis, alternative housing at area hotels for the ill individuals to protect their families. This approach has been taken in other parts of Cook County and Illinois as well. We may also use the funding to house high-risk family members alternatively, if that makes more sense, for example, the older parents of an ill healthcare worker. Beth Lindley is working with Chief Heflick, and we're consulting with John Lockerbie to arrange low-cost contract with a Skokie facility for this purpose. This pandemic has been hard for everyone, and we want to recognize that what the community has done so far has made a real difference. A tremendous amount of energy has been devoted by the village and our partners across many sectors, as you have just heard, to limiting the spread of COVID-19. Continued vigilance is needed to prevent a resurgence of cases, and we now know what steps we need to do to succeed. I want to thank everyone again from every department in the village for assisting with this huge effort. Mr. Lorge, Ann Tennis, Nick Wyatt, John Lockerbie, Mayor Van Dusen, the Economic Recovery Task Force, my fellow members. I was very proud to be part of that team. And all of our elected officials, every business entity and citizen in Skokie for facing this unprecedented situation together. And with that, I will take any questions that you might have.
Okay. Before I call on my colleagues, I would like to make a couple comments. First, I want to thank you for the 10 years of service, not just for everything that you've done for all of our residents. I think the statistics speak to that, but also I want to thank you for educating me on public health. I can't begin to tell people how many times over the past 10 years I've just popped into your office with a question, and you've always been very patient in answering my questions. And I will say, you were the first person I know who drew our attention to what was going on overseas in both China and in Europe, and of course, that we needed to be prepared. And this was last December and January. And I think because of that, we did have something of a leg up. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. Second thing, though, is I want to be the first person to lobby you in your new job. I know you don't start for another 10 days or so.
I'm scared.
But
he's a formidable lobbyist.
No. But I do think one thing we have learned here in Skokie, but also statewide, is that we need a medical National Guard. And it's something we can't just pick up and do right now, but I do think long-term, it's something that the governor and the legislature and the Illinois Department of Public Health should consider. God forbid we ever have to go through anything like this again. But if the immunologists are correct, this could be the first of what will be, over the next century, a wave of viruses. And I think it would behoove us to think very seriously about a medical adjunct to the Illinois National Guard. I won't pretend to tell you how it should be organized. You in your new role with the state, which will be of enormous benefit, will learn and be able to do this much better. I should warn you, however, that I do plan on talking to our area legislators to encourage them to begin to study this idea and possibly introduce legislation in the next General Assembly. So with my modest lobbying at an end, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure working with you. And with that, if anybody has any questions. Trustee Roberts.
Hi, Dr. Kennard. I think what I feel is on everyone's mind right now is our schools. And while the Skokie Health Department is not directly responsible for the schools, I know that we play a role. And I just, in leaving us in very good shape here, I wonder if you could just describe and give us your general thoughts about how we're doing, how does the village work with the school districts, and what's going on kind of behind the scenes, and do you think that the schools are getting into the position where they'll be ready to go from a public health standpoint?
Yes, actually, John Lockerbie and I have been meeting regularly with Niles Township schools and the leaders from the other communities that are part of Niles Township since the very beginning, since the pandemic began, and we were meeting with them about should they cancel the orchestra performance, and then should they close, and so on. And so we actually are meeting tomorrow at 10 is our next meeting, and we've been having extensive discussions with the schools about how everything is going. As you know, I think being nimble was what Matt, I think, mentioned earlier, has been really the word of the day, because it depends on how the disease is spreading locally. And so I am also working with Cook County, and we're hearing a presentation from North Shore tomorrow about how they might share their data on the local level to give us a more granular information, because, you know, as wonderful as the information is on the Illinois Department of Public Health website, having one number for all of suburban Cook County is a little difficult to make local planning decisions, especially when, as I said, we have 1/10 the case rate of what's happening in suburban Cook County as a whole. How do we make decisions to support our schools? But I think it makes sense to work at the township level, and I am excited by the idea that North Shore would want to pilot this program with Niles Township. So there's going to be lots of discussions. We did, of course, the Illinois Department of Public Health and the State Board of Education put together a unified guidance document that we've all been going through. We've spent a tremendous amount of time. I have both Sue Reesberg and a new nurse we hired, Jennifer Davis, who are both working with the daycares and schools closely on these concerns. We've been hearing a lot from parents, especially the parents from children who have learning disabilities, wanting to make sure that their needs are met. And so it's a lot of moving pieces, but I do think that collectively we're all moving in a good direction. And so, you know, basically that's my thought right at the moment. We all realize that as soon as schools open, we need to really make sure the staff and the kids are safe. I did want to mention over the summer even, Bruce Jones and I have been working closely with the schools regarding their athletic programs, because the Illinois High School Athletics Association came out with guidance, as well as there was national guidance, and so we've been working through with all the different sports what might be a safe approach and what might not. And I know that Governor Pritzker emphasized that in his speech last week, but the main thing we're doing is we're available to everyone. Just like you've heard from the Economic Recovery Task Force, we're available. Some days I just spend the entire day answering phone calls and emails, messages from all the different entities in the village and all the different residents with all of their concerns. Any concern that you have regarding COVID, please call us. We're here to help. And we've expanded our team now, so we have the capacity to answer the questions that are coming in. We have nurses on at night and on the weekend. They can be reached by calling the police department general number. And so, any time there's a concern that someone might have been exposed, we want to know about it, because we want to follow up. We want to make sure anybody who is potentially exposed gets into quarantine, and that we follow up with them and make sure that if they do, that they are actually keeping away from others, they're able to do it, and so on, as I was talking about before. So every single day we're getting notified, and so I think that's the strength of this community, the close-knit community, that we all know each other, that people feel comfortable and confident to call us and ask, okay, so the coach is sick, now what do I do? And we just work through that. How many kids, what was the position, were people wearing masks, and so on and so on. How about the other staff? So that's really our approach, and I think it's working. I mean, look at our numbers. We're doing very well in comparison to other places, even in comparison to our area. So we should be very pleased and keep up the good work.
Doctor, thank you.
Thank you, and thank you again. I know I said that last time, but it's really been a pleasure and an honor to work with everyone here. I've benefited a lot from and grown a lot. I mean, I wouldn't have gotten this job with the state if I hadn't had all my experiences here. So thanks for helping me out, and of course, Skokie will be in my heart. You're going to have an advocate at the state. They probably already know that when I get up there, so.
Leave your phone number.
I sure will, of course. I think everyone knows it. Thank you.
We're not shy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item B is regarding a resolution to participate in the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus CS Squared Community Solar Program. The Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus has partnered with the Power Bureau LLC, an energy procurement consulting firm, to create a community solar opportunity for member municipalities through a program called the Community Solar Clearinghouse Solution Program. The North Shore Electric Aggregation Consortium selected the program because the caucus has already done the legwork of selecting community solar providers from over 25 community solar developments, and it was based on a request for proposals. Community solar is more accessible and allows consumers to purchase a share of the electricity generated by an authorized solar farm. The projected savings for the average Skokie household is expected to be around 20% of the supply charges, which equates to about $55 for a multi-family and $110 for a single-family account. The program enhances grid reliability and is projected to create 2,250 jobs in the ComEd region. Liz Zimmerman, our assistant to the Public Works Director, has been the lead on this initiative, and she's with us this evening to help answer any questions that you may have. I concur with staff's recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and Board approval of the resolution to participate in this solar program.
A motion to adopt the resolution to participate in the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus CS2 Community Solar Program is in order. Trustee Roberts, seconded by Trustee Bromberg. Are there comments or questions? Trustee Roberts.
Good evening, Liz. I know the members of the Environmental Commission and they'll be very excited. I'm sure you've shared the news already. Could you just describe just a little bit more how this program will work? And, has a provider been chosen? And like, where are the community solar panels? Or for the average Skokie citizen, how would the program work?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
The solar farms are all located in northern Illinois. That was, really good news. That means we're creating local jobs. The FEJA Act required, ComEd to have a certain amount of megawatt hour solar or wind by 2030, and so all of those solar farms needed to be local within the ComEd region. So that was really great for our local economy. As far as how the program works, the solar farms are not necessarily built yet, but they're expected to come online later this year in early 2021. So residents would essentially sign up on a wait list, and we want to encourage the residents to sign up quickly because there's more interest than there is, solar energy at this point. And however, we anticipate that if there is a wait list, that's just going to be the driving force for more and more solar farms. So a wait list, in one respect, is good news for everyone. Once those solar farms come online, the CS2 program will reach out to those residents to execute an application, and then shortly thereafter they should see that occurring on their ComEd bill.
It seems it's a great way for residents. I know some don't want to go through the whole, the cost and the planning to put solar panels on your house. So this is a way for more residents in Skokie to be able to help with sustainable energy in a cost-effective way and save money at the same time. So I congratulate you for spearheading the program.
Thank you. Yeah, we're really excited. There's a lot of reasons why residents might not be able to have solar panels, whether they live in a condo, whether they're thinking about moving, if your roof isn't in great shape. And so this is just a great opportunity. And I think when a sustainable initiative meets cost savings, that's just a great opportunity for all of us to take advantage of that.
Yep, a win-win.
Okay. Would the clerk call the roll, please?
Trustee Roberts,
Aye.
Trustee Sutker,
Aye.
Trustee Ulrich,
Aye.
Trustee Bromberg,
Aye.
Trustee Klein,
Aye.
Trustee Gray Keeler,
Aye.
Mayor Van Dusen.
Aye. The motion passes. Liz, thank you.
Thank you.
Item C is regarding a commercial corridor storefront enhancement program for 8042 Lincoln Avenue. Maria Cozy, owner of the downtown Skokie-based Needs and Wants Artisan Bakery and Cafe, has applied for funding under the commercial corridor storefront enhancement program. Ms. Cozy and her partners opened this popular bakery cafe in September of 2019 and has undertaken various investments within the structure and site over the past 10 months. Most recently, during the COVID shutdown, the business has modified its operations to focus on online contactless pickup to customers seeking their wide array of menu items. To further accommodate their customers, the owners are seeking to invest in their restaurant by modifying their exterior to include a walk-up window and upgrade the interior serving and dining areas. The majority of the interior and exterior work to be completed includes the installation of a new walk-up pickup window, new exterior illuminated signage and awning, upgraded fire suppression and electric systems, windows, new cabinetry, pickup area shelving and countertops, among other eligible costs. The applicant has received several bids for the major components in the interior and exterior work. The lowest estimate for the work to be done totals approximately $67,645. Of that amount, $27,058 is deemed eligible for reimbursement, with maximum architectural fees of $3,000. And said fees total $7,500. The total Storefront Enhancement Program grant will not exceed $30,058, which would be transferred to the owner following the completion of all the work, final inspections, and submittal of all required documentation. Leslie Murphy, our Economic Development Specialist, has been working directly with Needs and Wants. Mayor and Board approval of a grant in an amount not to exceed $30,058 is respectfully requested for Needs and Wants, located at 8042 Lincoln Avenue.
A motion to agree with the village manager's recommendation for a commercial corridor storefront enhancement for 8042 Lincoln Avenue, Needs and Wants, is in order. Trustee Gray Keeler, seconded by Trustee Klein. Dylan, is that you? There you go, okay. I'll see you Wednesday morning. Are there any comments or questions? Trustee Ulrich?
I just want to say, in conjunction with what I said earlier about new structuralization, the walk-up window, I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We love it too. The feedback has been really great so far.
Every single customer has enjoyed it so far.
Great.
The clerk will call the roll.
Trustee Roberts,
Aye.
trustee Sutker,
Aye.
trustee Ulrich,
Aye.
trustee Bromberg, trustee Bromberg,
Aye.
trustee Klein,
Aye.
trustee Gray Keeler,
Aye.
Mayor Van Dusen.
Aye, the motion passes. Congratulations. Welcome.
Item D is regarding an HP infrastructure maintenance contract, HP Support Warehouse, Lake Success, New York, for $32,298.74, and it was approved under tonight's consent agenda. And that completes my report this evening.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is report of our Corporation Counsel, Michael Lorge.
Thank you, Mayor, trustees. Good evening to everyone. I'm joined tonight by Assistant Corporation Counsel Jim McCarthy. Items A and B are ordinances which were on the consent agenda at the beginning of this evening's meeting and were adopted at that time. Item C is a resolution on the agenda for first reading and board action tonight. This matter concerns a routine housekeeping function and authorizes the publication of the 2020 official zoning map for the village of Skokie. It's in accordance with section 11-13-19 of the Illinois Municipal Code. The Director of Community Development has reviewed the official zoning map, and all necessary changes have been made in order to assure the accuracy of the map. Mayor, I request board action on this resolution tonight.
A motion on the resolution authorizing the publication of the village's zoning map for 2020. Trustee Ulrich, seconded by Trustee Roberts. Call the roll, please.
Trustee Roberts,
Aye.
trustee Sutker,
Aye.
trustee Ulrich,
Aye.
trustee Bromberg,
Aye.
trustee Klein,
Aye.
trustee Gray Keeler,
Aye.
Mayor Van Dusen.
Aye, the motion passes.
Thank you. That will conclude my report for this evening.
Thank you. The concluding item this evening is citizen comments. John?
Thank you, Mayor Van Dusen. So the first citizen comment that I have received this evening is from Daniel Schwartz. Please, he writes with the following: please take this seriously. A few bees flying around on a daily basis is one thing as easily avoided, but millions all at once is not a good match for a residential community, especially if people don't know they are allergic because they've never been stung or exposed. Dr. Kennard has responded to this individual, and I'll just share a little bit of the response. She states she wanted to assure him that a great deal of thought and reflection went into establishing the Skokie Community Apiary, which involved numerous community partners. The health department was the lead for this effort and spent 7 years working with the Talking Farm, Skokie Park District, specifically Emily Oaks, the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District, Niles West High School, and Oakton Community College on this project. Had consultation with a number of individuals in different associations, and worked through all of these concerns. And fortunately, she says, an isolated area at the southeast corner of the Oakton Community College campus is off the beaten path, has proved to be the ideal spot with adequate food and water nearby for the honeybees. A second citizen comment is from Lawrence Walters. He says, hello, I would like these questions to be presented to the board Monday. When will body cameras be implemented? When will equity education like SEED be implemented for all Skokie staff? How is equity education implemented for all Skokie staff currently? What consideration is there for implementing affordable housing for the many new construction sites across Skokie? The Skokie Police Department has in-car cameras that record all the traffic stops, and also obtains footage from all directions. And so at this point, that was a significant investment of about $608,000. And so that high-quality video footage has been very helpful to the police department. And at this point, we continue to monitor that and look for best practices and also for grant funding for body cameras. And so we continue to look at that. In addition, SEED training. SEED training stands for Seeking Educational Equity and Diversity. The village has supported this training for a number of years now. Several years ago, a couple of the school districts in town provided this training. It really started in the schools, and then the village, as part of our participation in Skokie Cares, made this training available to everyone in the community. In addition, the village's Human Relations Commission sponsored a commissioner to go through the facilitator training for SEED to become a certified facilitator, and has conducted a cohort. A number of elected officials, village commissioners, staff members have participated in training, and we're working to have even more representatives from the village participate in the upcoming SEED trainings. In addition, I should mention that the village's personnel director has announced that she is retiring. And as we begin to evaluate that position and the organization's need, we are evaluating how equity responsibilities will be part of that position going forward. And so there will be more to come on that component of our personnel director position. In addition, during July, we had an outside entity come in and review our strategy for recruiting a diverse workforce, which includes working with over 140 different entities. The outside entity concluded our strategy is comprehensive and suggested that we add radio stations to advertise open positions, and specifically radio stations that are minority owned. We have been talking, the village has been talking with a number of groups this summer on how to further the village's work in areas of equity. We've explored several different options. We're interested in reviewing our practices and learning how to improve and implementing best practices. We are currently expecting a proposal from an outside entity that does extensive racial equity work and consultation and in the area. And we look forward to having a partnership with them. As we develop this and work through our work plan, results will be shared with the community. Another resident, Shira Hammond from 8921 Lincolnwood Drive, has written. She states, I received a ticket in the mail today from running a red light at Oakton and McCormick. I watched the video and found that my driving did violate the no turn on red sign there, which I did fail to notice, but my driving was not in any way unsafe. I stopped at the line and waited for all pedestrians and bicycles anywhere in the facility to pass by, then advanced slightly to where I had perfect visibility of oncoming cars and waited for all coming cars to pass, and then advanced to turn right. I'm not contesting the ticket because I did violate the no turn on red sign. However, I'm writing to the Village of Skokie to express my dissatisfaction as a Skokie resident with the presence of the sign and with camera enforcement at the intersection. We should not be ticketing people $100 for perfectly safe driving. In this case, my driving was 100% entirely safe. I did not block any pedestrians or cyclists from passing or interfere with any traffic, and yet I owe $100 to Skokie. We need to look to different options for our revenue than ticketing drivers who drive safely. The police chief has reviewed the footage from that stop, or from that traffic infraction, and noted that IDOT has deemed this an area that needs a restriction of no turn on red. That was not a village-determined sign. It likely was determined by IDOT to need this sign because it's among the highest intersections in Skokie in terms of traffic crashes. In addition, the sign prohibits vehicles from turning north onto McCormick from Oakton Street through the common bicycle and pedestrian pathway of the Sculpture Park Trail as these users cross Oakton Street. We received a number of comments from residents regarding the mayor signing the Barack Obama's mayor pledge, and they comment about reviewing the pledges to review our police use of force policies, engage your communities by including a diverse range of input, experiences, and stories in your review, report the findings of your review to your community, and seek feedback, reform your community's police use of force policies. Some say that they have not seen the signing of this pledge, acknowledged or promoted in the village's communication. What is the timeline for completing these 4 actions? When can the community expect to hear the results of this review? Citizens are eager to work with the village to improve our relationship with police officers while also increasing police accountability and transparency. This one was from Nicole Reynolds. Another one is from Suzanne Strasburger, Lisa Littberg, Amy and Yaki Eisenberg, Teresa Gibbons of 8147 Long Avenue, Orella Acosta, this one is different. It talks about some of the same issues, but also talks about hiding behind diversity and need to truly uplift and support Black and brown residents and businesses. Talks about the 8 can't wait reforms that have been talked about on the national level. Body cameras are talked about. When will body cameras be implemented? When will equity education be implemented for all Skokie staff? What consideration is there for implementing affordable housing? And when will we see support for Black economic development in the village? Another one about the Barack Obama's mayor's pledge is from London Somerville, 8046 Kenneth Avenue. Another one about the pledge, only Joni McKinney. Another one about the pledge, Beth Dims. Another one about the pledge from Laura Williams, 8135 Lockwood Avenue. And from Carrie Swan, also about the pledge. Some time ago, Mayor Van Duzen took the Obama Foundation's Reimagining Policing Pledge. This was announced at the vigil conducted in June and will continue to be promoted through our resident newsletters. The village has a practice of annually reviewing our police department's use of force policy. It's an annual review. In addition to the normal review process, the village's Public Safety Commission will be involved in a review this year that is currently being embarked upon. The commission includes 23 Skokie residents who serve as volunteers on this commission. And I should mention that the village's use of force policy has been recognized through the accreditation process as meeting or exceeding accreditation standards. I should also note that although unfortunate incidents have occurred across the country, our police department regularly provides opportunities for individuals to register complaint. For example, in the past, the police department hosted the Procedural Justice for Communities, a dialogue to change, where both police officers and community members participated side by side and together. All of our police department policies are reviewed regularly for every accreditation process. Another component of our accreditation is providing an opportunity for residents or other individuals to provide feedback regarding experiences with the police department. And they provide this feedback to an independent party. This feedback can be provided through a number of means, including in-person, electronic, or telephonic means. There is also a procedure that is advertised on the village's website, as well as a trifold brochure in the police department about ways that individuals can give commendations or provide criticism about their experiences with our police. In general, the village has a long history of listening to residents and incorporating their feedback. Recently, the village conducted a community forum and is committed to regular updates regarding the items of interest. There is a resident survey that is conducted every 3 years by an outside contractor. On the national level, there has been some interest in the 8 can't wait police policy reforms. The Skokie Police Department has been compliant with these principles and policies prior to that recent call for action. So again, the 8 can't wait police policy reforms were addressed well in advance of the recent reform calls here in the village of Skokie. The village also has the Human Relations Commission, which was created in 1979 to promote unity and to encourage residents to work in integrated ways to strengthen the community. The purpose of the commission is to encourage understanding and respect between residents of various racial, religious, and ethnic backgrounds and safeguard the rights of all citizens. The Human Relations Commission is available for people to share their stories and to seek remedies if they feel they have been discriminated against. The Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors have recently discussed how we might be able to further support Black and Brown owned businesses within our community. I am pleased to report that the Skokie Chamber of Commerce is currently established at a roundtable for minority owned businesses. I also thought some background information is important to share regarding this topic. The village has noted and celebrated that our business community is diverse, with owners and entrepreneurs from many different ethnicities and nationalities, but we have not collected this information. As a unit of local government, we are in part a regulatory agency. Consequently, the village does not collect race or ethnicity information for businesses. Our concern involves upholding the Equal Protection Clause of the U.S. Constitution, which requires us to govern impartially and not draw distinctions between individuals based on race, ethnicity, and other factors. As a best practice, we do not require race or ethnicity information as part of our business license or permit application processes because we do not want any semblance of discrimination in our review process. In closing, I thought it would be helpful to talk about working with the police. We do have a Block Watch program. If people watching the meeting do not have a Block Watch, we would welcome them to join our Block Watch program. The Crime Prevention Bureau of the Police Department is responsible for those. In addition, the village has a Beat Officer program. So this is a program where each neighborhood in the community has a police officer that individual residents can contact, establish a relationship with, and be able to contact them if they detect something that is not quite right in their neighborhood. And so I encourage residents to reach out and get to know their beat officer. And with that, we look forward to continuing to work with the community and through these processes. And unless there's additional citizen comments that came in during the meeting, which I see there are no additional comments, that completes citizen comments for tonight.
Thank you. Trustee Roberts,
Motion to adjourn?
we are adjourned.